Hillary Clinton outraged many activists engaged in the fight against AIDS when just before First Lady Nancy Reagan's funeral in March, Clinton offered this revisionist history about the Reagans.
It may be hard for your viewers to remember how difficult it was for people to talk about HIV/AIDS back in the 1980s. And because of both President and Mrs. Reagan, in particular Mrs. Reagan, we started a national conversation when before nobody would talk about it, nobody wanted to do anything about it. It penetrated the public conscience, and people began to say, hey, we have to do something about this too.
But as many people pointed out immediately, the Reagans had a terrible record on HIV/AIDS. The president refused to even publicly acknowledge the crisis, much less mobilize the country against it. Clinton quickly apologized, calling what she said a mistake. Bernie Sanders, meanwhile, seized on the opportunity to take a swing at the Democratic frontrunner.
I just don't know what she was talking about. In fact, that was a very tragic moment in modern American history. There were many, many people who were dying of AIDS. And in fact, there was demand all over this country for President Reagan to start talking about this terrible tragedy. And yet he refused to talk about it while the AIDS epidemic was sweeping this country. So I'm not quite sure where Secretary Clinton got her information.
But since then, the moment has faded from the national political spotlight, and the activists who Sanders courted in that moment are now feeling left behind. Joining me now from Boston is Michael Rajner. He's part of a group of activists who've joined together in the fight to end AIDS. And Michael, thank you so much for joining me this morning. Since that happened, the coalition that you're a part of reached out to Hillary Clinton's campaign to ask her for a meeting, and you also reached out to the other leading presidential candidates. Talk about what has happened since then.
Well, actually, Joy, we reached out to every campaign, both on the Republican and Democratic side. And even as yesterday or Friday, I actually heard from the Trump campaign, of all campaigns, to even confirm that they are interested in speaking with us. This Thursday, we're going to be meeting with Secretary Hillary Clinton in New York City in a private meeting. We're very excited. She's committed to giving us at least 1 full hour or maybe more to go over our issues and discuss her plans and go over an agenda of items that we really want to see. Senator Sanders, unfortunately, we got a meeting on a Friday. The following Sunday, they canceled and postponed, and that meeting was scheduled for that Tuesday in Indianapolis, on the day of the primary. So we were very upset. We haven't heard anything back from the Sanders campaign, and we really don't know if his criticism, for instance, of Secretary Clinton at the time of Nancy Reagan's funeral was just more rhetoric, or if he's really sincere about sitting down with us to go over what it's going to take to address the epidemic of HIV/AIDS internationally and domestically here at home.
And I should note that we here did reach out to the Bernie Sanders campaign to try to find out if they plan to reach out to you guys and plan to confirm a new meeting with you. We did not hear back from them. We did try on multiple occasions to do that. What do you want to hear from these candidates regarding the fight against AIDS?
Well, for the past several weeks, we've been meeting regularly by conference call, and I can't tell you how many hundreds of emails, narrowing down our agenda for a meeting with each of the candidates. One of the things globally, for instance, by year 2020, we want to see a $2 billion increase in global aid spending to address that. When we look at the agenda for the national epidemic, we have about 45,000 new HIV transmissions each year. By 2020, we want to see the commitment for funding and other strategies to ensure that we can bring down those infections to about 12,500 per year in the U.S. The campaigns themselves, Secretary Clinton, to her credit, after her gaffe, has really stepped up to broaden and make sure she was more detailed on her platform, how to address the epidemic. But with Senator Sanders, it's quite vague. It's missing a lot of information, including dialogue on pre-exposure prophylactic, known as PrEP, which is a very important intervention in order to reduce new HIV transmissions, especially among gay men and others.
And what's interesting, and Michael, you and I have known each other for a long time, and we've had this conversation about the kind of intersectionality between the issue of HIV and AIDS and race. You are an activist in South Florida where, new instances of people living with HIV are really escalating among African American American women, for instance. And if you look at the statistics of new HIV cases by population in 2010, you can see that white gay men are still at the top of the list in terms of people who are living with HIV. But you do also see that Black and Latina women and Black men are also a part of this conversation. How important is it to have that kind of intersectional dialogue that also does bring race to the table?
It's critical. You know, one of our focuses as well is I've been having conversations with DNC Chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and one of our demands as well is with the party establishment, we'd like to make sure that we have, once again, a person living with HIV speaking at each of the conventions, both Republican and Democrat. It seems to have gone by the wayside. One of the things we're pushing for, hopefully, is a young gay Black man living with HIV. We haven't identified that specific speaker yet, but it's one of the most important populations right now that many of us are trying to focus on. And there's no doubt that I can tell you stories of individuals that I've had to help, but we seem to find that, especially among young gay Black men, that they go from, unlike myself, where I have the privilege and easier access to health care as a white man, when we look into the minority communities to struggle to get early intervention care, earlier diagnosis, it's just not there in minority communities, and we want to make sure that any plan is vetted. In Florida, it's great that Florida Governor Rick Scott wants to now demand funds for Zika from the federal government. But when you look at providing that medical coverage that's needed, or the health coverage, in order for individuals in low-income communities to access the needed medical care to continue treatment for Zika, where is it when Medicaid is one of the things that's been left off the table in Florida?
Yeah, absolutely. And very briefly, just to wrap up, what would you tell Senator Sanders if he were listening right now, having not confirmed a meeting with you and not gotten back with you?
Well, quite honestly, we feel burned by the Bern, and we certainly suggest that he give us a call and reach out to us immediately. His campaign has been in lockdown and has refused to answer any of our emails, and there's been numerous ones. So we encourage him to reach out to us. The fact that we can actually hear from Donald Trump's campaign a genuine commitment to want to sit down with us once they have their policy team firmed, it sends a chilling statement. And I think, Senator Sanders has wanted to be a champion for the underdog and marginalized communities. HIV/AIDS is probably perhaps one of the most marginalized communities there are, and we ask Senator Sanders to engage more in the issues rather than maybe the political rhetoric that we so often see.
All right. Well, Michael Rajner, thank you so much, and hopefully you'll let us know if you do hear from the Sanders campaign. Really appreciate you.
I will, Joy, and happy Mother's Day, and thank you for having me on. I'll be sure to reach out to you as soon as we meet with Secretary Clinton on Thursday.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right.
Great. Thank you.
All right, and coming up next, when the buzzing stops, the disappearance of bees and the frightening consequences.